a young man who a lot of people know in our community, and that's Mr. Sam Pierce.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sam. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. So, Sam is a Bostonian, born and raised in Boston. He's the only candidate who founded the Boston Green Project back in 2018 prior to the Green New Deal. As a civil rights advocate and lifelong member of the Boston NAACP, Sam is also the only candidate who is the founder of Schools Instead of Prisons, as well as the Boston Saving Lives Project. So, Sam, you've been involved in a lot of community activist work, and you you know a lot of people. I know you work a lot of campaigns, and you have some good ideas. And
Thank
so
you.
let's talk. Let's talk. So my first question: you see yourself? How do you see yourself in this role as a state rep?
I think that's a great question. I think that the state rep is really an organizer,
Mm-hmm.
just at a different level. I think that my ability to identify with our community, understanding what our community has been looking for and what we haven't gotten, will put me in a unique position to advocate for us. And the main thing is being consistent. Right now, we don't have any consistent elected leaders that have regular meetings that we can show up to. And I understand COVID made it very difficult to have in-person meetings. I know I felt the same way about church, that I was looking forward to being able to go back to church in person. Even though I know we have a lot of services on Zoom and a lot of prayer on Zoom, I need that camaraderie. I need to see my people. I want to have iron sharpen iron. And I understand that the church are the people in the congregation themselves, not just a building. But similar to our community, I think people need to see each other. They need to interact and be able to verify and confirm. And I think that's why, in the Bible it says that the sheep should know their shepherd's voice. So if the shepherd never shows up, how would the sheep know his voice?
Good question. Um, so tell us what. So you have ran for elected office before, correct?
I have.
And it was not for the same position, right?
No, I ran for state senator in 2020. I got over 8,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Really from a lot of the same people I'm asking to vote for me again. And when I ran the previous time, I ran really because I was trying to be forward thinking. I knew that we couldn't live on $10 if you're a tip worker, or even $15 for minimum wage. I knew it was time to raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour. And so, if you do your research, I was saying that back in 2020. And now that's become a thing where people are saying, oh, maybe we need to raise the minimum wage. The tip worker bill is actually on the ballot in November, to basically allow tip workers to have a minimum wage, because the whole idea is that the tips are supposed to be extra or on top of what they're making, but they should have a guaranteed salary. But at the same time,
I agree with that.
yeah. So, I think that's part of business too. You want to make sure our workers are being paid, because that could be any of us. I know that that Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley was a waitress at one time before she became a congresswoman, and I know Julia Mejia actually was a waitress before she became a city councilor.
Okay. So, what is your platform? What's your most, like 1, 2, 3?
Well, the main thing is I think that there's really the need for activity and economic mobility in the district. And I say that because Citizens Bank just closed down the street, okay? And
The one in Carmen Square?
in Carmen Square. And so instead of having a bank, we opened a liquor store and a marijuana dispensary. Now, that's nothing against having a liquor store and a marijuana dispensary, but what message are you sending to the community now that we don't have a banking option? So now the only banking option that there is Bank of America. And so when I look up and down the street, I see sidewalks that need to be fixed. I see streets that need to be repaved. I see people racing up and down the street that are driving too fast. So people need speed bumps, or we need some type of traffic measures. And I see a lot of violence. People are getting shot in the street in this district that I'm running for. And this is our district, this is our community, and these are our children, these are our people. And so I'm seeing that people don't have life insurance, right? Because imagine if every single person who died prematurely had $1 million life insurance, right? Now it would be a little bit different. There would be more walking patrols. There would be a lot more attention, because now insurance companies would demand it. They would say, listen, we have $1 million policies on these people. They are important. Right, and it's almost, and I hate to say this, almost like back to slavery, because insurance was originally invented for slavery, and what we look at is our car insurance is higher in our community, right? Because they say that there are more accidents. We realize people don't have life insurance, so even if a loved one were to pass away, what happens to the house? A lot of people are renting and don't have a mortgage, and what that means is that if you and a few of your buddies are roommates, instead of paying some landlord a set amount of money, you all could have bought that property. But no one is teaching our community how to be homeowners. And I feel like that is the difference between the baby boomer generation, Generation X and Y, and the millennials. Because our parents' generation, I think, bought more real estate property, more houses, I think, than any other generation before them. Some of them inherited some property, but a lot of them were able to buy property in Boston when it was only $5,000 to $10,000, maybe even $20,000 to buy a house. And now the average house in Boston is over $600,000. So it's become a barrier, an economic mobility barrier, to not have the ability to walk to work. Right. So now one thing we learned about in COVID is that people were able to work from home if they had a job where they were not only considered essential, but they were able to do administrative work or have a managerial role. Right. You can't work from home if you're a landscaper. You can't work from home if you're the carpenter or the plumber. Right. Yeah. But you can work from home if you're doing customer service, if you're doing graphic design, if you're answering some calls, if you're doing banking, if you're doing other types of jobs. So I think part of it is really thinking about how do we teach our community how to be entrepreneurs, how to be homeowners. Because if you buy a home, you can start a business, right? And how we can learn how to work smarter, not harder. And really, I hate to say it, but we need to get back to the church. We need to organize around what kept our community and our ancestors focused. We need to get off of the drugs, not be dependent on drug abuse and some outside source for our entertainment.
So I see here you say these some of your points. I would say early education plus vocational education, the People's Academy, rent control, low income housing, buildings, entrepreneurship, MBE grants, rent to own club, reform the police plus hire minority BPS teachers, increase the life expectancy 30 years and fix MBTA, prevent drug abuse and invest in trades, not triggers. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, I know you're...
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is we have to reimagine what we expect from our community, right? And so what happened is that when we had a lot of young people having children, it was a lot of times the grandmother or the grandparents who were raising not only their child, because their child was still a child, but now a grandchild. So now you're raising two generations. And what was happening is some of our elders were getting overworked. That's what was happening. And so now we really need to get back to building that village. So early education really is starting at a young age to teach children about Jesus, why Jesus is important. Teach them about education, teach them about math, teach them about music, because music is math. Teach them about sports and science through sports. Teaching our young people how to walk, how to talk, but how to walk with dignity and talk with conviction. And so all of that starts at a young age. And then from that young age, and I think of 12th Baptist Church as a perfect model. They have a early education center where they're teaching 3 to 5-year-olds, sometimes even 6, not only the Word of God and not only how to be good citizens and good neighbors, but how to be leaders in our community. Starting at 3 years old, they know their timetables. They know how to read. They're learning how to write. We teach children how to read books. And that was, I think, a testimony, because a lot of our churches have vacation Bible study. So, in the summer months, we're teaching our youth different books of the Bible, but it's usually only a week. And so then from early education, vocational education now teaches people how they could be entrepreneurs, essentially. How do you cook for yourself? How do you sew a button on your shirt? How do you make a coffee table if you want to? How do you make a lamp? How do you negotiate with vendors if you wanted to buy wholesale products? And so that's all vocational education. And we have a vocational school called the People's Academy that knows how to do a lot of the construction work that we're seeing, whether it's historic preservation, since we have so many houses that need to be updated in our community, whether it's copper finishing work on the State House or even the U.S. Capitol building. He is a uniquely trained and talented person who's actually trying to give some of his gifts and knowledge to other people. And he's actually the Black Paul Revere, and the first person from our community who has actually been showcased at the Paul Revere Museum in Canton, Massachusetts. So if you haven't already, I strongly recommend you visit the Paul Revere Museum in Canton, Massachusetts to see the People's Academy and Brother T. Michael Thomas's work. If you're unfamiliar with all of his copper finishing work, his jewelry, he also makes jewelry, which is amazing. Rent control. Rent control is important because a lot of black people are getting forced out of our community.
That's the truth.
Because we're not holding our schools accountable for payment in lieu of taxes, the rent is too high. And I would even say that the government is also pushing us out, because these Section 8 vouchers telling landlords that they can, charge up to $5,000 is also pushing people out, because COVID is over, so that the evictions are up. And so rent control would be a way that we would get the Boston Housing Authority and the state voucher program to agree on lowering the pricing that they're asking landlords to request. And so now, if you have a 2-bedroom house or unit in Boston, they're asking somewhere between $4,000 to $5,000 sometimes. I'm thinking that maybe $1,500, maybe to $2,000 might be a better, more reasonable price. And I say that because now maybe you have a roommate, or maybe you're a single parent that's raising a child, and you don't have a roommate. So now it's your salary that's paying for this. The other thing is that we have to start to look at the percentage of our salary that we're paying to rent and live in Boston, because it really should only be 1/3. It should be 1/3 of your salary goes to your housing, living expenses. 1/3 actually goes to a savings account, and hopefully 1/3 is going to the church. I know that we're here at Boston Praise Radio. People are supposed to be tithing, so I think that we need to start paying ourselves forward, and then also hold our churches accountable in the fact that we need financial literacy, and our churches are actually the best places to talk about why Jesus turned over the money changing tables, and how our churches can help with financial literacy and even first time home buying. Because now if you have homeowners and you have business owners and entrepreneurs in the neighborhood, they can tithe and they can contribute more and help others in the church become homeowners and business owners. And so that's why we're looking at MBE grants and the rent to own club, because maybe the church could act as a almost like a bank, like they did back in the day. You look at the Medici and the Borgias, who were banking families that took over the Catholic Church. One of the things that we could do as far as rent to own club is we could build portfolios or land trusts where people invest in their community. And they basically say, okay, we're going to start to buy these different properties, and we're going to teach people how they can be responsible homeowners. So maybe you buy a 3-family house, and then you are able to sell the units to other members of the community for a nominal rent or nominal price. And so we could get subsidized funding by building affordable housing that we could then sell to people in the community. And so that would be, the rent to own club, so people would be able to rent or use their Section 8 vouchers to actually buy the house instead of just renting. Reforming the police, we actually don't have enough walking patrols. We don't have a mounted police unit. We don't even know many of our officers' names. And so that is part of the reason why when I was working with Commissioner Evans and then Davis, we actually got more biking and walking patrols to be implemented, which I was very excited about. And then when we had the other commissioners who have now since come, we had Commissioner Willie, which was really exciting, Willie Gross, because he really embraced walking patrols. He actually would walk, we obviously celebrate the Walk for Peace in May, but he would actually do a Walk for Peace every week during the summer months. And we would go to a different church would host it each week for some of the walks. And then he had a stationary location. It happened to be Morning Star Baptist Church, because he was, that's actually where he went to church and still does go to Morning Star. And so that was very helpful to actually have the police commissioner embrace community policing. Our newest police commissioner, I think, is also very helpful in making sure that we have more community service activities. Definitely shout out to Superintendent Nora Bastian, who is in charge of not only the police academy, but also she works along with the CSOs. And then they also have some other police superintendents who have been participating. I know Commissioner Harris in a lot of community service activities, and Commissioner Nicole Grant. And so really working alongside our first responders and making sure that we put the community first. And that is why part of my police reform platform and strategy is to merge the state police with the MBTA police. I think that we could save we could actually save billions of dollars of tax money in merging those two departments at the state level. that was something that I spoke with then Governor Deval Patrick about. That was one of the ideas that we talked about as his re-election campaign that he embraced. And part of merging the state police with the MBTA police would also help with their pension, because the MBTA police actually have a better pension than the state police. So the state police would actually be able to benefit from the merger as well as the community. We also
I
talked
think we
about.
got a call.
Oh,
Good morning,
have a call.
caller. You're on the air.
Yes, hi. Good morning.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, yes. Hi. Hi. All right. No, I'm just tuning in for the Brother Stampiers. I just want to say, congratulations that you're for state rep. Keep pushing out the message, man, and keep trying to spread the love, spread the message, and, awaken the actual community. Because what I see here is that a lot of people are trying to push us out of the community right now by closing the pharmacies, closing the hospitals, and stuff like that.
absolutely.
But thank you so much. It takes brothers like you to keep trying to encourage this community as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we also need people who are fighting. We can't have the fox guarding the hen house, and that's actually what's been happening. A lot of our brothers and sisters who are going to county prison, which is only a few months to up to 2 year stay, are actually being coerced and might be tricked into giving away their organs because of this new bill that State Representative Russell Holmes actually is one of the petitioners trying to pass, called the Organ Donation Bill, that would have 5 people appointed by the Department of Corrections decide if your heart, your lungs, or your kidneys were worth 2 months or up to a year off of your time sentence. And that's why it's people like you, brother, that I'm actually fighting to make sure that things like that don't happen, because our community has been asleep. We haven't been awake. And I think that we've been the sleeping giant, because for too long, after the 60s and 70s, when they created the drug epidemic in the 80s and 90s, they knew that our community was too organized. We were working together. We had the free lunch program, so they took out the Black Panthers. Now you see free lunch actually is something that the public schools offer as part of a government program, and they regulate whether or not you can give people water at the election polls. Remember what's happening in Georgia? They regulate if our community can give our kids, quality food, because it's hard to get a good home cooked meal anymore, and some of our kids actually don't have a quality meal, and so when they go to school, that's part of the reason they might be misbehaving. We also need brothers and sisters like yourself who can help engage our kids, because right now the school is expecting our kids to sit down, be still, and listen to a lecture at 6 to 12 years old, where some teacher is basically lecturing them for 9 hours a day instead of teaching them, encouraging them, engaging them, embracing their energy, letting them run around. We used to have recess. Do you remember recess when you were growing up?
Yeah, actually, I do.
We had home economics where, one day a week we look forward to actually cooking our own lunch or breakfast, and we would learn actually fractions and math based on measuring flour and sugar and teaspoons and tablespoons and learning the different measurements. That's actually how I learned fractions. And so I think that our kids are actually at a detriment. They're not benefiting from today's education because our teachers are being pushed out of the schools. After COVID, they hired more minority teachers, more teachers of color, but because they were the last ones hired, they were the first ones fired. And so we want to make sure we have more teachers of color in our Boston public schools, and we fight to save their jobs. What are some things you'd like to see?
I totally agree with that. I do believe that we do need more black sisters in there, but unfortunately, I think that the city is pushing us out. I can see it. It's probably a 20-year plan that they already had ahead of us, and we probably woken up too late. But do I believe that we should still fight and still vote for the ones that can help change stuff? Yes, because I feel like that's our only way to stop what's going on, to stop all of like the madness, and things within like that nature. Do I think that we have a shot? Yeah, but it takes us as a community to come together to try to fight for what's ours.
Well, it's definitely going to take a team effort. There's no I in team, and I definitely know that the only exists in community. And so I very much appreciate having the community be a part of this campaign, because this is definitely a grassroots campaign. We need every voter. We need every supporter to tell their friends, to bring one other person to the poll, and also to hopefully help register to vote, because up until August 24th, people can register to vote. If they're not registered to vote already, they can ask for a mail-in ballot, either by talking to the city or going in person or requesting one via email. They can really be engaged. We have a black woman on top of the ticket running for U.S. president, which has never happened before. I remember my grandparents and even my parents being so excited when we elected Barack Obama. Now we have an opportunity to elect Kamala Harris, but we need people to be engaged. We need them to not be asleep anymore. We need them to be awoke, and we need to know that awoke means that you are cognitive and you are present and you are able to discern and see what is going on. So people want to be awake. It's good to be asleep, because you have some of your sleep time. We all need our rest. I say 6 to 8 hours a day. It's okay to be asleep, but then the rest of the time you're supposed to be awake. So that's 16 hours a day where our community is supposed to be awake and responding to our responsibilities. And I think that it's our responsibility to vote, because people in our community have ancestors who died for that ability. And I think it would be disrespectful to their legacy if we didn't at least vote and vote for somebody, right? And I think
correct. I feel like, I feel like even when Obama was the president, a lot of us failed to go back and vote 2 years later. See, we're thinking because we voted him in, we was good. No, we forgot to go back and vote for Congress. We forgot to go back and vote for state reps, senators, city councils, and I think that's where our community is failing to realize, if you want to change something, you got to keep voting to keep putting us in office so that we can continue to change things and not just focus on the governor, the mayor. You got to focus on your city councils too. You got to focus on everybody, state reps, everybody, so that they can be able to change what is needed to be changed. And I realize that they may help, they may not help, But, even like I know Russell Holmes been in for 14 years, if I'm not mistaken. My number one question would have been to him is, what have you done for our community? Besides endorse people, besides, help people get in office, what have you literally done?
Well, he's watched schools be taken over by the state. We actually had the Dever School taken over by the state, receivership, and we've actually had businesses close, black businesses close, because they were not able to get liquor licenses, which is something that I would be fighting for as part of the legacy of then City Councilor, now U.S. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, and City Councilor Julia Mejia has been fighting to get more liquor licenses. And part of it is that a lot of people in our community are entrepreneurs. And so that is why the City Council passed the ability for people to cater and do business out of their home. that is something that I know that City Councilor Aaron Murphy was also talking about, because a lot of the liquor licenses that were in Dorchester and Roxbury were given to the seaport, were given to South Boston to help build up the seaport. And one of the things that the City Council was talking about is how we can create liquor licenses specifically for our community that stay in our community. And that was something that Councilor Brian Morrell mentioned, that he wanted to see more liquor licenses in Dorchester and Mattapan. And so as your next state representative, I wouldn't necessarily be doing home rule petitions, because that's what the city council does. I would be writing the law. And so I would write a law that says we would have more liquor licenses in Dorchester and Mattapan, not just one-day temporary licenses where we have to talk to the captain of your local precinct, but a license so that you can do business as an established restaurant or as an established catering business, and actually have events and make some money. And so I think that that is something that we definitely want to do, because we have the Citizens Bank that just closed in Carbon Square. When we look around, there's not much to do. There's Macumba, obviously, in Mattapan Square, but there aren't any sit-down restaurants that I can see that I would feel comfortable going to in our community, which means that, you know, even Nubian Square, you know, other than going for breakfast at the Silver Slipper, where do you sit down and go? And so in the 6th Suffolk, one of the first things I would do is make sure that we got our restaurateurs together. We got our local black businesses together. We sat down with Beckma. We sat down with Jalen Brown, our Celtics MVP, who just said he wants to build a new Black Wall Street in Boston. And we said, how do we encourage more entrepreneurship, more first-time home buyers, and more economic mobility here in the 6th Suffolk? And I think that within my first 100 days, I will be able to do more for the community than Russell Holmes has done in 14 years.
Hold on, we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. How you doing, sis? How's everything?
I'm
Long
good.
time no hear.
I know. I ain't heard your voice in a long time.
Listen, I'm ripping and running, I get the emails. Once I look at the emails, so I try to catch it. That's why I'm coming on late, because I've seen it late. Just remind me, that you're on. Brother Pierce, what's going on? How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, fantastic, awesome, amazing, blessed, and highly favored.
Amen.
I got just a couple of questions, so because I need to know, what is the state rep that's in there now, not doing that you can do better?
Well, one of the things he's not doing is consistently following up with his neighbors. On his own street, there are vacant lots that have now since become development. But a lot of people did not know what the transition process would be, did not have meetings with the contractors. We have a lot of vacant lots specifically in the 6th Suffolk district that used to belong to black families that were taken either through eminent domain or through various things. And we need to make sure that our black community is able to buy housing. When we look up and down the street, we also see a lot of disrepair. There are spot pothole fixes, but they're not paving our streets so that they run smoothly like in other communities. The other thing that we don't see is we don't see the connectivity and the camaraderie, the excitement. It's almost like when Joe Biden was running compared to Kamala. People aren't excited in our community to vote. They're not excited to be part of the decision-making process. And so one of the things that my opponent, because both of my opponents are actually friends of mine, had done previously is we actually used to have more community meetings, and that actually stopped. I know that my opponent goes to other people's community meetings, but I can't remember the last time that my opponent actually gathered the community on a consistent basis where everyone knows, okay, on this day of the month, we're all going to meet and sit down with our state representative, and I can not only talk about, the issues of the community, but also be abreast and be more knowledgeable about what issues the state representative is fighting for, what new bills are coming down the pike at the State House. Are there resources or grants that are available that might help my business or, a friend of mine? Different opportunities for internships or job fairs at some of the different state agencies. There's a laundry list of things that my opponent is not doing. And so once I am hopefully elected by the people and hopefully am able to get your support, I will be able to do more in the first 100 days than Russell Holmes was able to do.
Okay, so I'll wait to rebuke you on some of the stuff that you said, because there's some stuff that you're saying about state that doesn't have that has nothing to do with state. That's city. With those lands. That's city. Because that's city. You know what I'm saying? Because they can't step over boundaries and do whatever. So that's city.
It sounded like you're a little bit biased because you said when he beats me. So why don't you be more specific? What do you feel like I said that is not in the jurisdiction or the purview of the state? Can you be more specific? Because I'm very knowledgeable about the state.
Okay, so when you're talking about repairs, along the street, that's a city street. That's not state street. They can, reach out to their colleagues and say, okay, I need this and I need that, or what about this land? That, okay, the state is run by the governor, the city is ran by the mayor. So it's just the mayor and I'm not going to say the city council because all that falls under the mayor because nothing gets done, unless the mayor says okay.
Okay.
So with the city, so hold on. You told me that you want my answer. Let me give you my answer because I'm gonna be real quick. So I want to take over Sister's show. The empty lots. For the empty lots, you have to go through the city of Boston for the empty lots. You don't go through the state for the empty lots. So remember, and you said it that only in the state house that they write laws. They don't do nothing else but write their laws and stuff. 2, meetings. That gentleman right there, Russ, the one who you coming after, he is in more meetings than the city councilors are in community meetings, and it's only 2 of them. He only have him and his assistant that are, that are in the meetings. Every time I go to a meeting within his district, he is there. If he's not there, his assistant is there until he gets there. So it's not his job to bring together a community, for a meeting. He goes to their meetings, and that's his job is to show up to their meetings. And 2, the voting, we can't always put everything on elected officials about voting. That's our responsibility to vote.
So
we have, we're too far. Hold up. We're too much into partying, to drinking, and to doing everything else, and to and getting ready to get pushed out of our own community, and they still won't come out to vote.
So can you please ask your questions? I feel like you're becoming a surrogate for Russell Holmes. So do you have?
No, I'm not a surrogate. I'm just because listen. I tell people, those because. The officials who I see doing something, if you can tell me what haven't they done that we can agree upon, because if I see it, then I'm gonna have to point it to you because you might not have seen it.
No, that's fine. One thing we can do is we can agree to disagree. That's why there's an election, so you can cast your vote for who you feel like you agree with the most. I'm gonna go and answer your questions. Number 1, fixing the streets. Some of the streets are actually state-owned streets, and the state also gives a budget to the city for infrastructure. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but the U.S. president said that we're going to fix every lead pipe and actually remove them and replace them. So once that happens, the state actually gets jurisdiction over all city streets, because now we have federal funding to replace all of the lead pipes, which are actually in our community. So now it's actually the state representative who would then listen to the community, find out what streets they wanted to see repaved that weren't actually being addressed, and then make a plan with the mayor, work alongside with the head of streets, and make sure that all of our streets were properly paved, not just potholes fixed, but actually all paved. We would make sure that there was a plan to make sure that there were speed bumps and road safety measures. I would make sure that our funding went to the places that had not been previously addressed, like getting our sidewalks fixed, like making sure things are ADA accessible. Once you make a state law, it is also up to the state to make sure that there is compliance from the city. You even see Attorney General Andrea Campbell now suing the Milton and some other places who are not in compliance with the MBTA Communities Act. So one of the things I would be doing is I would be a representative of the general court. So the state representative is actually a representative of the general court, and I would make sure that the city of Boston was working alongside the community, and so we can respectfully disagree that my job as an elected official, or at least my plan as a member of the community that hopefully will be elected, would be to make sure that the community actually drives the seat, not just some puppet or talking head. And I would not just go to the community meetings, I would also be a bridge to the community and the government. We would create our own monthly meeting alongside whatever neighborhood associations want to have their normal scheduled meetings, so that people can come to one consolidated place, which would be my office, and talk to their state representative and find out what is going on. They would be able to.
Okay, now Sam. Listen, listen. I tell you about you. You know what? You're a bright and brilliant guy. All right. So what you're saying is, with these meetings, okay, how many meetings have you been to, and how many meetings have you called for the community? Because you don't have to become an elected official to call meetings for the community. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't use, okay, I'm gonna go to this meeting, I'm gonna call this meeting. Because you know what, you can do that and not be an elected official.
So one thing I can say is that,
okay, I want to know how many meetings have you attended, and how many meetings have you called?
I've actually called over 50 meetings myself, and I've attended thousands of meetings. We actually have a monthly community meeting that we do that talks about climate change and energy in the black community, that keeps people aware of all the different infrastructure funding and the money that is actually coming down the pipe for construction, which is why we need to have a vocational school in the black community. And if you were to come to the meeting, you would actually see. But we actually also part of the block, which used to have a lot of community meetings that we would all work together in trying to make sure people were aware of. I've been part of the 10,000 Fearless. We used to have community meetings with them. I was part of the Black Men's Political Task Force. We used to have meetings with them. And a lot of times we've been responding to the fire alarm, having a community meeting, and we're not forward thinking. There are 10-year master plans for every part of the city. We're not having architectural and design meetings saying, here's what we want our community to look like, feel like, smell like, taste like, as far as the restaurants we want, as far as the infrastructure we want to see. We're responding to whether or not people want to have the Blue Hill Ave corridor have a center bus lane. That's already a decision that's in the pike. We're starting to respond about Cummings Highway. Well, that's already something that's in the pike. So one of the things that the previous caller mentioned is that our community has been asleep. And so it's really not up to the past generation, respectfully. A lot of the baby boomers need to understand that it's time to pass the torch. And so, just like in a boxing match, you can be Joe Frazier. But when I come in like Muhammad Ali, not only am I going to beat my opponent, since you mentioned he's going to beat me, I'm going to do it substantially.
Oh, okay, yeah, but okay. So you know what? Everything you said is, that's what my thing is focus on what Sam is going to do. Focus on what Sam has done, and then stop trying to beat up everybody else. Because dirty politics is what people are sick and tired of. Because they hear the same. Because because let me tell you, because what you talk about is political talk, and that's what folks are tired of hearing. They want to know what Sam has done. What is Sam going to do? What have Sam, how many years have Sam been doing this?
So Sam has been working with the community for over 20 years. People have seen Sam work as a special operations director for U.S. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Sam knocked on over 10,000 doors to help our Congresswoman win. Sam was working as special operations for Boston City Councilor Julie Mejia, helped her win by 1 vote. Sam worked for Boston Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson and helped her win and help organize some of our young people with ITY and Danny and Renee to help her win and get some of our young people some jobs. Sam helped make sure that some of our local restaurants didn't close because they were having problems with the city. Sam made sure that our state was not discriminating against people at Roxbury Community College when they were letting Northeastern students use the Reggie Lewis Center, but not RCC students. Sam helped ensure that our state police and our MBTA police are going to be able to be streamlined, saving ourselves billions of dollars. Sam helped make sure that the Historic Preservation Act went through by working with a number of our organizations. Sam helped make sure that we raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I have a number of different organizations that I've started to help other people learn how they can not only talk the talk, but walk the walk and dance on the opponents when they just talk.
And that sounds great. And that sounds real great. That resume sounds real great. But now Sam has to get all those people who he just said and done for to come out to support him. Sam has to get some endorsement to get his, to get his
I feel like you're not asking me questions. You're being argued.
I am asking you questions because no. I just want you to focus on Sam. I don't want you to focus on nobody else. I want you to focus on Sam.
You've been talking about what he's doing.
No. I said focus on Sam.
You're raising your voice at me.
I'm not raising my voice. I said focus on Sam.
You're raising your voice.
Focus on Sam.
You're being combative, and I think we're done with this caller. Can we end this call, please?
Okay, that was a little hairy there, but well, these things are gonna come at you when you're running for office, unfortunately.
No, you're gonna have surrogates, you're gonna have spies, you're gonna have people that try and pretend that they're your friend and really gonna stab you on the back. That happened to Julius Caesar. And so one of the good things is that the reason why they said they don't want you to beat people up is we have a lot of puppets and a lot of fake leaders in the black community that don't want to be held accountable and held responsible for the fact that, this latest idea to incentivize organ donations for people in prison is disgusting to me. I think that it is time for our black leaders to grow a spine, and either they run for office and put their money where their mouth is, because the last caller ran a few times for office and nobody really wanted to vote for them and they were unsuccessful. So now you hearing their failures now being transcribed and projected onto me. They've already picked who they want to vote for, and so that's fine. They have one vote and they can cast it for whomever they'd like. But to have someone pretend that they're going to call in and ask some questions when they really just want to attack me is why we have the education system. We can all listen and understand the difference between a question and a statement. We can understand someone who is trying to respectfully have a conversation and someone who's trying to take over the show, yell and scream at me, and knows that, obviously we're at a church setting, and so they would never do that in the street.
Let's get back because we are almost out of time, correct, Pastor? So, Sam, you have 3 minutes. Sam, your phone number, your email, your website. If people want to get in touch with you, volunteer, give out your information. We have a couple minutes.
Well, thank you very much. My email is actually info@samuelforboston.com. My website is www.samuelforboston.com. And my phone number is actually 617-833-1342. The people of this community have known me for 42 years. I was born and raised in Boston, not Mississippi. I'm from Massachusetts.